Hello and welcome to the DM's Travel Book Club, a guide to the inner planes. Each episode we explore what are the inner planes of existence as outlined in the Great Wheels cosmology in the role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons. Hi Hamilton, how are you
Hello,
doing?
I'm good. I'm very good. We're off somewhere nice today, so
Yeah. It's
yeah,
it's we've had our first sort of stint in the quasi-elemental planes, and
mm,
now we're going back for round two essentially.
yeah. And during this transition of Travel Book Club,
I've
you've
I,
traveled the book clubs,
I've, you know what? I think it's every time we
traveled
do
the
a book club,
planes.
I have to at least change rooms at least
Yeah, you moved
twice.
house last time, didn't you, as well, when
I
we did
did,
the
yeah.
outer planes? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I moved into the new place, so close together. I think you can see the boxes disappearing. And similar, if you
Yeah,
were carefully watching or listening in the last episode, there's definitely a little change in the audio as all the stuff goes from my
the
room.
boxes disappears, and then in this one will grow again. It's yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you've switched planes of existence,
Yeah,
and so
I have, and also like I've deliberately picked one that has like a little bit of a grey theme because that's where we're
you've
going
moved to the grey
second.
wastes.
Yeah, I have moved to grey wastes, quite literally, I guess. But yes, today we are looking at the quasi-elemental planes of
Mm.
radiance and steam, which interesting. I
Good for the
actually think
sinuses.
yes for this, but I think it's these two planes. I think compared to the last two planes that we visited,
Mm.
that we were I don't want to say critical, but we were a bit negative about it because we're like,
Yeah.
there's nothing here.
There's nothing in this place. Yeah, exactly.
Where,
And
where, Whereas
yeah,
these ones, they at least whilst they are maybe a little bit light again, because obviously, as we said before, as soon as you get down into the nitty gritty, there isn't, there's not much else to explore. These ones actually seem quite interesting to me. These two planes.
mm, yeah, I agree. And I think they've got something particular about them each, which is kind of good. Whilst Mineral felt just like Earth Plus,
Yes.
these, even though they are a little bit, there's definitely more of a melding of the two elements that they are, particularly in Radiance, where we've got fire and positive,
Hmm.
and then in Steam, where we've got water and positive.
Yeah.
But they do work particularly to those things. I think probably because they have more of something to them, like, there's so many connotations you can have for steam, it
Mm.
comes to mind. And then radiance going down this very much all about light as a quality, whilst like positive energy is definitely always felt a bit light like that, you turn into like energy beings, but it's more
Mm.
like energy, whilst this is energy as a thing, which is sort of light and color. So yeah, I think it's yeah, I agree. They've got better conceptual bases, which probably is
Mm.
why they've got more out of them.
Yeah, and
Possibly.
also with the radiant stuff as well. Let's go straight into radiance, I
Mm.
guess. Well, I think the big thing is that both of these planes have points of view because often we have just like
Yeah.
someone just reporting at it, and it's usually like a general or a ganassi, etc. Here we have the first time in radiance, two individuals are talking to
Mm.
us for this particular plane.
Yes, we have Varir and Temius, who are
Varir and Temius.
quasi-elemental pairing, who basically, I mean, there is slight conversation between them, but
Mm.
it's a little bit more like if you have a conversation with someone who's not really listening to you. Do you
Oh
know what I
yeah,
mean?
it
They're
definitely it reminds me
yeah.
definitely of my philosophy seminars that I did at university.
Yeah, where you're having a conversation or a debate with someone, but they're just saying what they want to say about it, and you're saying what you want to say about it, and
Mhm.
sometimes you might overlap. Particularly in the intro, where it's like, "What is light? It is simply the absence of. Is it simply the absence of darkness, or is it nothing more? Light is the revealer, the solver of mysteries, and the key to finding what is lost. Light is goodness, truth, and the banisher of evil. Light gives sight, and sight brings understanding. Likewise, too much light can blind. Oh no! Taking sight away, thus light can bestow or banish understanding."
Yes,
You know.
it's very it's how I picture radiance because obviously, like you said, we've done the positive energy plane, which is just
Mm.
like all-encompassing light, like you burn through. Here, I think radiance is of like a multicolored like
Mm.
lights. I just think it's just almost like one of those sensory deprivation tanks
Yes.
where you're in complete darkness and then suddenly you start to I don't want to say hallucinate because I don't think that's what happens, but like you start
It's
to
like
see
when you
lots of bright
close your
lights.
eyes. Do you not get the colours in your eyes when when you close your lids?
A little bit, but not to the same extent that I imagine Radiance is going to be. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I know what you mean, and it is, yeah, it's a bit like this is the home of the dancing lights, and
Yes,
what's it,
disco
prismatic?
lights,
What's the
prismatic
prismatic?
spray. Yeah,
No, what's the
exactly.
other one? thing that you look at and you
Oh, hypnotic pattern?
hypnotic pattern. That's it. Thank you. Yeah. It's like one big hypnotic pattern, and I felt like they missed a point. Actually, now you said that, it feels like that would have been a nice little addition. Like, not as a physical condition, they could have added like you could get
Yeah.
hypnotized by the radiant beauty. Do you know what I mean?
Ooh,
And
yes,
that would be kind of
absolutely.
fun. And that's how you might, it might be like actually you get so hypnotized you don't even notice you're burning, because by the way, it's hot still,
Yeah.
because it's the fire plane positive. So
Yeah, because they have a whole table for like, like your flesh boiling, etc., depending on
yeah,
what natural armor you have, etc. And
yeah, all
so in fact, you've seen this
those lovely
amazing.
things.
Well, like you said, like if you're having this hypnotic pattern thing, so that fact you're paralyzed and then also burning because you're so enraptured by the different colors. Yeah, I think you're right. They missed a kind of trick there. But yeah, it's pretty much in terms of like hazards. If we're jumping ahead a little bit, it is pretty much just what happens in fire and then put it here,
Yes.
etc.
Yeah.
It is safe as any creature to breathe, and obviously vision
Yeah.
is impaired quite a bit unless you have a spell, which we'll probably come to right at the end. Again, the only time I've seen an actual spell being discussed in a travel book club sort of aspect of it. But yeah, in terms of that, like it is just like you said, it is. This is kind of fire plus in a
Yeah.
way, but I don't know. It's shinier, it's nicer, it's brighter. I don't know.
Yeah,
It,
yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have like noxious fumes, doesn't have
yeah.
any dangerous things like that. So it's just hot, but very crystal clear air that's safe to breathe, but boiling hot.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can save yourself with protection of fire or rings of fire resistance will all be enough to get you over that. But the other thing, the hazard key critical, is light itself. As it said, it is damaging to the eyes. So if you have magical darkness, or you can cover yourself with darkness, that's enough to shade mortal eyes. And later on, we do find out about basically sunglasses, magical sunglasses.
Magical
that people have got.
sunglasses. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Getting here though, it's
Yes.
interesting. Like, I guess basically, there are temporary ways to get in here. This is the thing I think, because before it was like there are many portals, and here are 3 of them, depending on which plane we went to. But here it talks about this idea of like they're almost like temporary rings of color that shimmer in and out as of any required shape. So this idea of temporariness and sort of like just being like how accidentally being here, it's unlikely unless you were going to be like in a sort of like it's more transient, these particular portals in but again, the 2 individuals who have been interviewed about this film say like people can't handle the glory of the plane, and the presence dilutes the beauty in distasteful ways. So again, there's a little bit of a pretentious attitude to travelers that come here. So that's the thing I was saying, is that if you do find yourself upon this plane for whatever reason, it may be if you do meet these quasi-elementals, they have a certain attitude towards them, which is like, you're like, oh, you've dirtied our carpet a little bit. You've come in and traipsed soil everywhere, because that's just who you are. But the one, let's talk about one portal, for example, is Manticore Breach in the Outlands, which again, it talks about that sort of transient, sort of like unreliableness, I guess is what I'm saying. So you go through this portal and it deposits you at a random part of the plane of radiance from moment to moment. So obviously, if there's a group of you going through it, you're gonna be separated. Unless I wondered, like, if you tie yourself with some sort of magical rope, perhaps. But even then, I just like the idea that you're just being thrown about,
jump through all together, holding
hands,
like holding each other. Exactly. Yeah. That's very true. Yeah, no, I like that. And the thing that's interesting there, and I don't know if we mentioned it when doing the outer planes, but we will when we get to the astral sea, is that vortices exist in the astral sea to all the planes. The outer planes, that is, obviously not the inner planes. It's not connected to the inner planes. And in there, they are color pools, and different color pools different colors relate to the different planes.
Oh, that's quite cool.
Yeah, I can't remember any of them off the top of my head, but there are other. They also relate to like the plane's birthstone, but not birthstone. You get birthstones for like Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They have a similar thing,
Oh, cool.
and they also have a resonating chord as well, like note, so like E minor or F or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which you use supposedly in the plane shift spell.
I was going to say the tuning fork, right?
The tuning fork. That's where the tuning fork comes from. So the tuning fork is tuned to the and that chord is given a chord. Because when I did very old, now not around on the internet anymore, one shot for Dragon's Duel, the first one we did was a Christmas special, Die Bard, and it started off by someone playing a guitar on a Spelljammer 3000 thing. It's very silly. And they play the note, and if you play the right note, you get to go to whatever plane you want. And so yeah, that's something that just made me think of it, because this talks about portals that are also of color, but this takes you to radiance. So, but that's in the Outlands. I think these ones it states, or is these a number of these transient portals connect to the upper planes with the plane of radiance. So I think that's kind of interesting. Maybe that's something that you could play on when we come to the astral sea and the outer planes, is you might misconfuse them as portals to the respective color planes. You're like, great, we need to find. We've been looking for a color pool all this time for sea to get us to, I don't know, Carceri. Great, jump in now. Oh crap, what's this? Burning. And you're in the plane of radiance or something.
I guess the thing for me, I'm just thinking about it, is like something that doesn't come up too much, maybe not for you or I, but like what would happen if your adventurers were colorblind, and so seeing like the colors of pools, etc. Because I like, don't get me wrong, I think that's a really cool idea. I love, because I can visualize the different colors and like looking like incredible. But I'm thinking like, is it maybe inaccessible to people who like, well, my adventurer is colorblind, so I wouldn't necessarily see that. So I think that's the only thing I'd say on that front, is that obviously we've come to the point now, is like, how do we make things more accessible for people? So, but I think it's a cool idea. But yeah, that's the only thing I think.
As I said, the tuning forks and stuff like that, and the
I think the tuning
resonance
fork's quite
them.
cool. Yeah,
and you could even maybe, I think you could maybe try and even like say there's a magical item that sort of retroactively works that in, so it tunes when you get close to a portal. It plays the tune by resonating with whatever a magical. You could do that as a way, as like you could make that as a magical item that you wear on your wrist, and you get close to it. It has a little tuning receiver, and as you get, it goes ding, this goes to battle.
Yeah, it actually says out loud or in text form, like through some glyphs. Yeah, I agree. That goes, this color is verdant green, so off to Arborea you go.
Exactly.
Sort of thing. The other thing to note, again, because these things aren't, these particular planes don't have as many hazards as previous ones. Moving about, it does. The editor has to butt in here a little bit and say, like, the other two, they don't really understand the concept of moving about, but it's pretty much like this plane of air. Like, you figure out which way you think is down and then move like that, which I think, as we said, like, even though I find that concept absolutely terrifying as a person, it makes sense that to keep repeating this pattern through certainly the planes of this is the plane of fire, isn't it, with positive air, but to have that as an overarching theme. But again, it would be nice to know, I think what would be cool right at the end of having this book is having that sort of like table and be like, what planes connect to what, and like what is similar, what is different. So like, hey, how do you travel to these planes? Okay, or how do you move around? It's by thought, that sort of thing, like a little table just to describe that, just in case you randomly roll, okay, they're going to the plane of radiance. I've not read that chapter. What does it look like? Can I do a quick reference to see like what the main rules, etc.?
No, I think that's you'd have a little click tab, wouldn't you? Which is very as you said, moving about. Then the other thing it moves on to then is inhabitants, of which there's very little. You obviously have the quasi-elementals that we're mentioning, we're talking right now. You've also got these birds called the Variso, which are birds of light, and these creatures roost in the refuge of color, which we get to later.
I was going to say,
the Sile or the Skyle are little moat-like creatures that devour color.
How cool is that? I love that concept.
Yeah, I like that. And they're like little vermin, and I quite like the idea of this little rats, but little rat moats.
Yeah, you just see like a cloud of moats coming through, and it just devouring all the color around you. Just a really cool quest hook, I thought. Like if you pest control sort of thing.
And also, undead dark lights threaten all that live in the plane, which sound fucking cool.
Well, what are dark lights? That sounds scary. And again, it would be nice if we had a bit more information about them, but presumably they're in another book.
I just imagine them, they're like like black lights you get, so that they've got that sort of blue with a radiant outline to them. That's kind of how I imagine them. Yeah.
Oh no, thank you. Scary. Other methods, again, they're another intelligent race here. There's also places, they could also be celestial creatures as well, like David, Planetars, the glorious Solars, welcome home in the inner planes. But it's interesting, these quasi-elementals, they're sort of like, we care very little about politics, but we cherish and respect and admire the light that these creatures come from. So it's like, we wouldn't get involved in this sort of thing, but thoughts and prayers, that's the kind of attitude is coming across from these folks. But then the other thing to mention as well is that there's no major players, there's no real deities here.
No.
apart from,
Yeah.
it mentions it quickly about, like, again, something that we'll come on to in the Refuge of Color, King Black and Queen White, which
Yeah.
instantly makes me think of, again, we'll go into them, but like it makes me think of Alice in Wonderland and that whole sort of chessboard things, or Alice's
Oh,
Returns to
yeah.
Wonderland, you know. So that's what I would, instantly, that's
that.
what I see. So that's what I'm going to put into. But yeah, the description of them is quite wild, and I wish there was a bit more about it. But
Again, yeah, sound really cool. Yeah.
but I guess it's because these particular individuals don't get involved in politics, so hence why they're not getting involved with kings and
Yeah.
queens. But I'm like, oh, but what is that? Who is King Black and who is Queen White? You know, again, it's always this idea of, again, I guess, again, putting aside the sort of accessibility bit for a moment, you could really play into like color theory and color wheels and stuff like that, like as a DM describing these places that they go to in Radiance, which is something I haven't really thought of, like when you're describing stuff, because currently all I'm seeing is like it's really bright and it's multicolored. That's as far as I would get. But I'm thinking like actually you see colors intersect when you cast spells, and then you can see the change like over, like almost like a
like kaleidoscopic and looking through diamonds and stuff like that. Yeah, and refracting prisms and stuff. I think and using prismatic things could be really cool, like prisms to like lock in and contain the energy and refocus the energy. Maybe could be a way for like spell keys. I think it's there's a lot of more fun you could have, and you could even be like, you go to the red zone and the blue zone, and it's more like azures all floating around with these different turquoises coming in when you get close to the green zone and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
you could kind of like maybe do that, or if you have like magical powers that can manipulate color into particular things as well, like you maybe can draw out the color from other things to just make it all one color, or you can do things like that. I don't know.
It makes me think of like you're going to do some sort of like, you know, crystal maze with those zones. So like, you like, we go to the verdant green zone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love it. I love the crystal maze.
Yeah. Put that in the realm of radiance.
I mean, you could so make it. It uses crystals to reflect the light into. It kind of comes in and spreads the colors out into all the primary colors around it, or at least like, you know, most of the rainbow colors. And then each of those zones are like a maze like place where you go around, have to solve different puzzles based on the colors that you involve with. Love it.
Use the crystals, like this is how we get out the time crystals, but then you just put them out and they just open portals. But obviously as soon as you go through one, that's one crystal gone, and you have to hope that the other crystals get you to where you need to go.
Exactly. We're gonna have to leave Dave here in this room because he's failed his challenge. You know, those ones like always love that. And they're like, we're gonna, you know, when they fail it, they're like, we're just going to leave you. We're not going to spend a crystal to get them out.
They're just sat there looking very forlorn and like... Oh, instantly I feel so much cool. This feels such a cooler place now that we've added Crystal Maze into it.
100%, yeah. So what other places you can go to then?
So we're going to look at 3 particular sites. There's the Kingdom of the Blind, which name, again, I'm not too fond of, but that's fine. Refuge of Color, which I think sounds the most interesting. And then the Heart of Light. And again, here, some really cool names. Some really interesting names. I'm like, oh, what does that... Yeah, instantly, as me as a DM, I'm like, oh, where can we go through that? Like, and you know, again, having that moment with the players going, where are we? And goes, well, you've arrived at the Heart of Light. You know, like how cool would that be? But yeah, the Kingdom of the Blind is the only place. Again, there's always a place in these planes which is like the safe haven that has been built specifically for outsiders. And this is a city that is like that. It's not a kingdom according to these particular quasi-elementals. They have to be very strict about that. But it's the idea that it's built. This particular city is built on a huge sort of mineral pocket.
Can I say though? It says it. The Kingdom of the Blind is actually a city rather than a kingdom, but then it keeps on to say the fact this makes the pod and thus the kingdom itself difficult. I know the term is kingdom, but you find it in, I don't know, I just find it like, what's the point in saying that if it isn't? Do you know what I mean? Like, why call it? No, I don't know.
I wonder if it's maybe their term for it, because, you know, like, again, these quasi-elementals are coming over as sort of like very preened, very sort of like eloquent, etc. So maybe it is called the City of the Blind, but I don't know if it's a different connotation.
Well, the guy, it says that the king is ruled by a self-appointed king and founder. So the person who found it appoints himself king, and then can call the place kingdom, right? Because do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just feel it's like a real place. I don't know why. It just like doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, okay, cool, good.
But yeah, this city itself is built on a huge mineral pocket. Again, we've had these elemental pockets described before, mostly composed of reflective crystals, and as a result, is protected by the blinding light. Although I can imagine it just being incredibly pretty and beautiful, like the inside of is it a mineral? You know, when you get all the stones inside the like a stone, essentially. The crystals, like, you know, when you get like purple crystals inside
Quartz.
a stone. Quartz, yeah. That's how I imagine it, like the inside of a quartz
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
thing.
Nice.
And so everything's quite sharp, and quite bright, but it's not as bright as outside. Like it's constantly daylight. That's how I'm imagining here. But yeah, that's a good point. Is that so? Not only is it protected by this light, but the I was going to say the owner, the king. Have you seen that a self-appointed king who's a tiefling whose mind was long ago implanted within the body of a clay golem?
Yeah.
Like, what is that story about?
I know, exactly.
That also is quite scary. The fact you've got this very beautiful, how I see it, maybe even fragile. Well, not fragile. I guess crystals can be quite strong, and then suddenly there's like as a huge clay golem, which is not necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Again, assuming clay golems aren't necessarily pretty, but I like imagine that then they've got little bits of crystal around them, sort of embedded, maybe like almost like medals here, and maybe shoulder pads with the sort of crystals. I don't know. I'm
like
trying to
shoulder pads. That's
yeah,
cool.
I have to do like the fingers, finger
like
guns for shoulder
That's
pads.
great. Yeah.
But yeah, I can just imagine describing this particular place just being like incredibly like, it feels like that sort of mix mash between sort of like.
Remember
crystal.
those Geordie LaForge style glasses you got in the 90s? That sort of did the little light. They made like bloom effects and light effects. And I kind of imagine what it would feel like.
I like that, yeah. And so it doesn't necessarily like disrupt your vision per se, but it's just wild. Like you constantly got lens flare, but you're not wearing any glasses.
Like a J.J. Abrams directed constantly. Yeah,
absolutely. But I think the only thing is like I don't really understand why it's called the Kingdom of the Blind. Presumably because it's protected from the light in some way, and maybe I don't know. I think, like I said,
when I read the title, I thought it was going to be like a Windglum situation where it's ruled by, you know, people that can't see or have been blinded by it, and it's a refuge for people to come and
recover,
be safe, recover, etc.
Yeah.
And be some sort of, you know, playing on the allegory of like the one-eyed person is king in the realm of the blind sort of thing, like, and that would be the joke, you know, like the king was going to be the only person who can see, and because they've got this magical effect, everyone else who enters here is blind and can't find their way out or something. I don't know, it could have been something like that, but it wasn't. It was which is fine, but you're right, then it's like I don't.
But maybe then I'm just trying to if we're going into that clay golem type thing, just because now I'm obsessed with it. They have like crystals for eyes, but then they don't see per se. Again, it's a weird sort of like. I don't know why I'm thinking disco, but I'm thinking just like a clay golem that's dressed up very disco-like with the disco glasses and stuff.
I love it. Yeah.
But
I think also
terrifying.
The other name you could call it is like the Shade Kingdom. But then I like the fact that everyone in it is just giving shade the whole time. So every time you talk, they're just so like passive aggressive.
It's
comments.
like, where did you come from? Oh, magma. Figures, you know, like that sort of.
Yeah. So you're from Ooze, are you? No.
No.
Well.
Oh, my mistake.
My mistake.
Refuge of Color, though, which again is the one that's been mentioned the most in this thing. So it is the only naturally occurring solid ground in the plane of radiance. It's an island of solid colors. So instantly, I'm thinking of like a very abstract color painting, perhaps. Maybe a small child has made it. So if you do have children who are interested in D&D, maybe you're like, hey, could you just draw me an island made of colors? And they're like, yes, okay. And then you could have that as an inspiration, is what I thought. But yeah, it appears to be more like a swirling prismatic display than a kingdom itself. So like again, it could be disorientating. I wondered like again if I was going to make a mechanic for this, being like every hour or so you have to make a Constitution saving throw or be sick, because it's just like there's just too much swirling like colors just to even concentrate perhaps, and everything just is always just shifting it ever so slightly, even though it is a solid color, you know.
Yeah. And it says, I tried Googling just now as well, the Variso, and I can't find any pictures of them, which is kind of annoying. But I'm imagining then, because we got this, the King Black and Queen White, that they then would be particular, like prismatic, colourful beings. Do you know what I mean? That's how I'm sort of appearing them. But the fact the king and queen are regal bird-like humanoids standing 10 feet tall, that's kind of, it just makes you think of Jonathan from the D&D movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, that's who it is. That's Jonathan.
You know what? Actually, just the way you're talking about like the beans color, it reminds me of again, very long time ago. But when we did the domains of delight, and you created those the black and white individual and the
Yes.
colorful individual, but the way
Yes.
you drew them, yeah, all I can see is that colorful individual, like again the shifting patterns and stuff. And again, I guess the king and queen, they're supposed to appear like these tropical birds, so like birds of paradise, etc. So having that sort of constantly shifting, almost like that AI motion thing, when it's constantly redoing the image. That's maybe what I'm thinking of as well as a description for these.
Yeah.
But it would be nice because all we get is cold and aloof. It would be nice to have a bit more about who are they to each other, and do they have different, like, is one of them crueler than the other and doesn't care, and one of them does take pity, and like, because we've got the first time in these sort of planes we've got two people talking, like one and then the other like describing this place, and then we've got two other individuals that rule a particular place. It'd be nice to be like, who are they to each other, like, because we don't get who the two quasi-elementals, like, how did they know each other? Because quasi-elementals, they describe, they're very solitary, it's very they're very philosopher-like in sort of talking things, which is what we get. But then it'd be nice to be like, do they like each other? Do they hate each other? Or are they just completely indifferent and we're just like, we're just here because we want to give you the full facts because one of us might know more than the other? And then because that's the thing, that's the only thing. Because
it does give a little intro at the beginning, say normally solitary, two were queried to assemble the data in this chapter. While the creatures themselves were similar, their debate revealed slightly different outlooks, proving that even beings that exemplify elementary forces are not all of one mind. So I guess that's
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Indeed. And then finally we have the Heart of Light.
Yes.
Also called the Tower of Healing. Yeah. Oh, okay. So where wounds and injuries heal faster and more completely than normal, where diseases fade and afflictions disappear. So this is near the sorry, where is it gone? So this is like, I think it's quite close to the positive elemental sort of barrier, essentially, this sort of tower. First of all, no one knows the true origins of this particular structure, this.
And you believe
tower.
this is the one that's on the other side of the wall?
Maybe. I feel like there's lots of towers near barriers, so I just assume there's like a big spike of things, because we had that in the last one, and I think,
which was going to the plane of radiance again. It was the tower that no one could get into, but in this one it says people who stay there either disappear or left never to return for reasons unknown if you try and stay claim to it. So maybe it's a bit of, and then you get chucked on the tower on the other side where you can't get in, and that's where you get shoved to.
Yeah, because Lightning and Mineral had two towers. Like, I think there's just towers very close to various barriers. That's if you go through one of these towers, maybe you end up on a different in another tower on a different plane of existence, perhaps. I agree. So no one knows the true origins, and it's fashioned the structure from blue light, which I think is, again, is there something about blue light in general? Like, I know obviously there's black light stuff, but I feel like there's something about blue light being able to go through various prisms, or like people can see it, or I don't know. I mean, in my head, I'm like, what is blue light? Like, is it just like, is it solid? I guess not. It's just like you can pass through it, perhaps.
Cut up the sky. It's also, if you chuck cameras staring at a recording of itself, it goes blue.
Really?
Yeah, so if you, old school VHS cameras, if you recorded the screen, so I remember we used to hook up like old DV8 sort of handheld recorder when I was like a teenager and we're trying to make videos, and you'd like point it at the TV screen, it would go blue.
Ooh. That's quite scary. I gotta be honest, that sounds like something from a horror film. That's quite scary. What does that mean?
Yeah. I don't know why it goes blue, but that's the color. So that's all I can say about blue. That's weird. But yeah, you get healed there and recover from any diseases and afflictions, or anything you need to, like, that would be like greater restoration sort of benefits.
The healers, so you're thinking of your paladins or clerics, etc. They function at twice their level, which is pretty good. Natural healing, as you sort of mentioned, it occurs like 10 times faster within the tower, and those who are willing to stay at least a week are purified of any disease and affliction. But there's no permanent occupants. Those even who try and set up residence there have either disappeared, which sounds very familiar with the other towers, I will admit, or left and have never returned for reasons unknown. And you're like, I think in the other towers we saw there was like tools that we weren't sure what they were used for. So I wondered again, it'd be nice to have something else here. Like there's there's weird sounds that we always keep hearing, or there is no color in a particular room. I don't know. Just like I think just to make it a little bit, because all we've got is that it's made out of blue light, and that's cool. But it's like, does that do anything? Like we have to make a Constitution saving for it, or we have to. We're scared of the blue light for some reason. You know.
I think you could make a really cool little adventure, which is like, it could be anywhere along the timeline of this story, but there is a wizard who is mucking around with positive energy forces and trying to absorb them in their tower, and in doing so completely fuck shit up, and their whole tower gets blown into pieces and sent into the heart of Radiance, but when it gets into the heart of Radiance, like the energy field like tries to reject it, so it springs it out, like sort of splits it into however many there would be, 4 quasi-elemental planes at the top, splits it in 4 and shoves it out halfway, sticking in and out of the plane, or maybe it had 4 towers or something like that, I don't know. And it's like 4 representations of the tower, and maybe if you pass into the ethereal planes, that's what it connects to, you can then, it recoalesces into one, and that's where you can see someone on working the forge, and you can meet the person who was the original wizard, and you figure out what they were all those things doing. So maybe it's like if you pass into the ethereal plane, where you go ethereal, you then recoalesce and you can travel between all of them and meet the original owner who's sort of set in this time loop or something like that. Maybe that could be a thing.
I love that. So so that this idea that maybe all the towers are then split across various different versions, and like really there was only one tower, but so there's all the same tower, but there's all different aspects of it. I love that. It feels very. I'm gonna say it feels very Doctor Who, which I know means nothing to you.
Yeah. I can imagine that sounds like what a Doctor Who would sound like to me when people explain it.
So then sort of the final little bit in Radiance before we nip over to our other plane is the why people would come here. So the advice that people are given if they want to come here. So it seems like, again, like many of these quasi-elemental planes, it's a lot of like, why would you come here? There's nothing for you here, and you're not local. But it's the idea of like either sort of investigating or utilizing the heart of the light, or heart of light, sorry, or items, forging of items, which we've come across before. This idea that they absorb light and glow thereafter, these different magical items. So like blanes become keener, so get a +1, etc. But then there's like mirrors gain the ability to reflect more than is usually seen by mortal eyes. So it makes me think of like,
I like that.
I really like that, because again, that sort of Beauty and the Beast type thing, just being like, show me the beast, and it's like, oh, it's behind me all this time. But yeah, because again, you have that sort of thing like the mirror of Erised and Harry Potter, that idea that mirrors show you more and reflect more about you, or like your wants or heart's desire and stuff like that. But I remember there was a podcast that I listened to ages ago, which had it was a horror podcast, obviously, and it had like this line of like, there's a mirror and a note, and you pick up the note and it says behind you, and I was just like, that idea that you constantly use that mirror to look behind you and constantly see what's going on behind you, and seeing things that aren't there. I just thought, so going back to like the ethereal and the astral stuff, if you're projecting, maybe that's a way to just check if there's any any other people in the room.
The other idea of maybe you could get glass that you're going to use you could get glasses that allow you, like, make your magical see invisibility constantly, glasses, or see darkness. I'd also suggest, if you've got dark vision, it's harder to see. You get more harder to save on the seeing. It's
a higher difficulty.
Eyes are so much, because your eyes are much more like heightened to light. I think that could be a little thing you could add in potentially. Because it's always the case that every GM is like, well, I've got dark vision. They're always like, well, I've got dark vision, so I can see.
I've got +5 to seeing.
Exactly. And then you're like,
no, you don't.
Okay, now you don't. Now it's come back to bite you.
Because we're big fans of having, like, it's cool to have a cool benefit, but it can't benefit you all the time, because there are times when there will be challenges, like, again, and we know this with the new D&D, obviously the 50th year happening up there, like, we want to make sure that people aren't failing. We want people to succeed, but maybe we're just old, Hamilton, and I like failing. I like being able to
I
make
like watching people
choices.
fail.
Yeah, I like watching. Oh, yeah, I like watching people fail, but I also like failing myself. I think that's I have to say that.
No, I'm
I mean,
joking. Yeah.
yeah. Could you imagine if that was like a session zero safety tool that goes, I like failing, but not for me, as your sort of boundary, as your sort of like
I
safety
like
check.
failure. I like to watch failure. I like
Uh,
Schadenfreude
Yes, I
a
love
lot.
Schadenfreude. I want that to organically happen as my foundry.
Like,
And then, of course, I always mention spell keys. I think they're quite interesting. So this again, it's the idea of colors. So maybe using a little bit of color from like your coat or something like that. Again, High Rollers had a character that could do that, and use that
Yes.
and used it to imbue their things. I think it's a more flavorsome thing rather than a character class.
Yeah,
Although
it was changed. It was like, yeah, I think it was created by for Trot, wasn't it? And it was
yes.
called chromatic
Like
mage
chromomancy or something like or chromatic,
yeah,
something like that.
chromatic magic or whatever. And yeah, and it was more like it was very much like an artificer. It kind of felt like to me because it was very much like what's the thing the artificers do when they just pull. That's how you do a lot of spells, is by pulling off.
Oh,
It was a bit like
the
the
useful
one that
robes one.
yeah, like the useful robe one, and yeah, which is what Taryon Darrington had as well. But
Yes.
they remade that to be that he's so rich that he has
Yes.
all these things.
Yeah, it has all
Yeah.
these things. Yeah. I
But
quite
you
like.
had, yeah, the Trot one was cool because it's like you had to have a bit of orange, and there was a couple of two, and he's like, I don't have that, and it was like, but the other character had red hair, so it was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna use the red.
I'm gonna
from
take
the
a little
hair.
bit. Yeah, like it is like just taking it, like pulling almost like a thread
Yeah.
and adding into it. Yeah, because it talks about like those who know the nature of these keys know which colors to associate with a sort of spell, and all that matters is that the color must be present at the time of casting. So this idea, like, yeah, you pull it out and you whisper it, and then it, a little bit of, I don't know, like dark, and you're like, darkness, if you can in such a plane. So yeah, again, like accessibility wise, like color blindness, maybe not, but at the same time, I don't know. I love being able to play with this. And again, people, it's more that people can't see it rather than not imagining it. So maybe people can come up with different colors. Or you know what would be nice actually, if you were someone that did that sort of magic, the sort of chromomancy idea of it, is that you could be like, okay, what color are you using for this spell? And then they can make up names of colors off the spectrum, because obviously the spectrum is so wide, and so infrared could be anything, that sort of thing. So I think that'd be quite cool. Yeah, elephant's breath. Oh my god, yeah, of course you'd go to the Dulux like the site and be like, Duck Blue, all that sort of.
Exactly, yeah.
Of course, how stupid of me. Of course I'd go to that website and just get all those things. That's so much easier. I don't know why I'd make up names.
I'm going to be doing my spells, but I'm going to talk about a bunch of color whilst I'm doing it. But I like the idea of, do the color theory. Think about things that people say about colors, like green is the most relaxing, blue makes you feel cold, red involves fire and heat and stuff like that, and passion, and then brown is brown.
How do you feel about
mud,
brown? Indifferent.
Indifferent.
I like that. Yeah, associating with color, associating it with emotions as well. I like that. I think that's really cool. And like, yeah, it gets you really engaged as a player. Like, if you're really angry at the moment, then you'd be like, purple and red, and just like massive color.
Maybe involved, like maybe that sort of emotion sort of washes over you whilst you do it. So you've got to like role play it a bit.
Role play it. The other idea, again, and this is me just going, what if we go all the way to 100, right? Is that, okay, yes, you have color to cast your spell. You then, when you're casting a spell, you have 6 seconds to draw your spell with a color. So either you have to like find something in the room that has, I don't know, therefore you just come up with a whole tray of stuff, but it has to be something different each time. It can't just be like these pens constantly, or you like literally have a pot of paint and you just draw a fireball very quickly. You write it out in color or something.
Yeah, exactly. I like it. You got to get your crayons out and draw your.
But
spell.
you have 6 seconds
it.
or a minute. I think you need to take the casting time super seriously. Just I think that'd be really fun. Like, it's a one-off thing.
You can give them as many colors as they've got spell slots. So once they've used that one color, then you have to put that in a different pot. Like, you can make it very physically like of representation. So
I really like that. Yeah.
If all of the colors are different, like maybe give them all a different sorcerer style quicken spell, heighten spell, stuff like that. Twin spell.
Yeah.
You can only, and they're relevant to each pen color, and so it's like I've used my quicken spell one now, and I'm gonna, that's how. And then you run, and you have to put that in your little pot when you finish.
If you were using sorcerer's points, maybe you have to add like a daub of white or something like that. And so you're mixing up the colours as well. Oh, we're so smart.
Look at us.
Look at us. We've made
Who would have
something up.
known?
Yeah, I didn't.
I didn't.
The final thing just to mention before we move on to the steam is our next plane is the spell that also comes here. Like, I kind of wish now, because we're coming to the sort of the tail end of this travel book club, I kind of wish there was more spells and more items that you get specifically, because they talks about like the accumulators one I remember, and there's the pack of wings for the plane of air and stuff, which were sort of given a mention but weren't given a big description. And here we have an actual spell which is like clearly they've made up for this particular plane. It's not like the other spells that you can find elsewhere in like the DM's guide, etc. So I kind of feel like basically all it is called sight without vision. So the idea that you're not using your physical sight, but you're sort of sensing out, and the colors are sort of bombarding you, and you're being able to see through. So, it provides immunity to sight-based threats such as gaze attacks, eye bite, eyes of petrification, which is, again, some great names for spells here. But basically, being able to see without seeing is the sort of the vibe you get it. So you can see in environments that are hazardous to the eyesight, such as blinding light, such as the planes of radiance and positive energy. So again, something that you probably do if you're going to that positive energy plane just to heal up. But it's kind of like, I kind of wish we had more of that. You were saying before about having sort of information about these are like the bird things you're talking about just now. Like, why can't we have a bit more of a description in this book rather than having to go to another book, which at the time we might not own or might not be able to find easily, So I like the fact that we've got a quick spell here that just describes what to do. I kind of wish we need more of those, like a little supplemental or something. Maybe there is one that came with this particular book, but we couldn't find it.
No, I totally agree. And it's a constant thing that we're saying every time we get to it. Yeah, but that's it. That's probably it for Radiance, isn't it?
I think so. Shall we mosey on over to Steam?
Steam.
Now, I have a question, right?
Yes.
When you think of Steam, what do you think of?
Steam room.
Steam room, right? So hot.
Steam room. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This place isn't hot, though.
It's cold. I know.
I think this has been misnamed, and maybe it's just me. I feel like this is
mist.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, this feels like a misty plane rather than a steam plane, but I feel like maybe they got, when they
Well, it mentions it though, doesn't it? Because it says that it used to be hot because it used to be the positive plane. It used to be connected with fire and water at one point, but fire and water aren't connected anymore because it's fire, earth, fire, and air, right?
Something like that. So does it mean that, again, interestingly then, does it mean that these elemental planes shift and move positions? So that means in future that, certain para and quasi-elemental planes might no longer exist or be completely changed, or new ones would exist. Which, again, very cool concept. But I wish, again, that was in the primer, or I don't know. I wish I knew about it earlier, because then it's like, because it feels like this place is cold and a bit clammy, and not what I think when you come to like steam. Like, I was thinking sauna. I was thinking like, when you burst a pipe of like boiling water, it steams out, and then that's dangerous in a video game. So I was a bit like, and so I've had to readjust my assumptions about this plane. And no doubt, if you're taking your players here, they will also have to do that. It is not hot.
It's literally the little sidebar goes, hey, the place is called the Plane of Steam, so where's the heat? Yeah. And I think it does. I can't remember where it mentions it. I haven't got it. I've got some little notes, but I remember it saying that thing that, it was once hot when it was the steam was the planes between those two. It's also worth noting the narrator in this one, I think, straight off the bat.
Let's talk about the narrator, shall we?
Which so they're from the Faces of Evil book, which I haven't got. But by the way, there is a DM's Guild sale on right now for Planescape because it's the anniversary. 30-year anniversary. That's how old Planescape is, because it was 1994.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can get everything for 30% off. And Face of Evil is, I imagine, like the Faces of Sigil in the cage. And so that they were in that, and they've obviously turned up again, Zanzos. So if you want more Zanzos, you can get them there.
I don't know. Zanzos is quite high on my, like, what a cool NPC that we're going to have.
Best. Yeah. Hello, mortals. It's time for you to learn about the plane of steam from Xanthos. Xanthos is a slard. What is slard doing in the planes? No one knows. Wait, Xanthos knows. Hunting methods. Methods.
Yeah, this sort of wild, like slard. Oh, obviously, they come from the elemental plane of limbo, so they're a little bit all over the place. They're chaotic. They're constantly changeable. So the fact you have a slard that refers to themselves in the third person, which is always fun as a DM.
Yeah.
I love referring to myself in the third person because then you get this sort of like, I'm slightly grander and probably not all there, and that's okay because then the players have to deal with this. I've dealt with their stuff. It's now for them to deal with this slard who like hunts methods, and constantly throughout this thing he goes, there are 3 things you should know. No, 2. Like 1.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely love. Is just like sort of like, what a joy of a character. Which we only it makes me want to go read that Faces of Evil book as a result to find out more about this particular person.
Yeah, no, it's really great, and they outline it in such a fun way. As I think I mentioned earlier, the hello ooze, when it's like talking about where it meets, it goes where steam meets ooze. It comes right. Lastly, the realm of cloying fear lies where steam meets ooze. It comes right up and says, "Hello, ooze." The nasty place offers nothing but a thick atmosphere of gag, juicy scents or a thin, oily place. It's just great. It's just like, hello, ooze.
Hello, ooze.
But there's some really great names as well in this one, and particularly like my favorite is where it meets mineral. You've got the shard forest where you've got crystals floating amongst the mist.
Oh, scary.
You've got the lightning one, which has got the name is called Death Cloud, which is so cool.
Yeah, they're very metal, these names, aren't they? I like that you say about
cloying fear.
I was gonna say realm of cloying fear. That's a place I'm gonna call in my house. I think don't go in there. Don't go into that cupboard.
Yeah.
The realm of cloying fear. Just
Yeah. Oh, here it is. So yes, some historians believe that the plane of steam once stood between the planes of water and fire when the inner planes were configured differently. This theory states that fire and water were once positioned so they shared a border, which was the para-elemental plane of steam. This plane was hot and steamy, giving it the name, which remains today, even with the planes being switched around. So yeah, it does say there. That's where it is. Xanthos might just confusing and pointless to think about.
Thanks, Xanthos. And now with the weather, yeah,
exactly. So what are the physical conditions that we've got to deal with when we get here then?
Well,
actually, how do we get here even? Sorry.
How do we get here? So obviously there's portals, we've got our favourites of portals from Sidual, we've got the Outlands, even Limbo, Xanthos' home, our home, a wonderful home, where everything, portals to the plane of steam, One portal lies in the caverns deep below the surface of the first of Gehenna's furnaces. The cloudy path is always open. Two-way portal, the quasi-elementals of the plane and some other fiends used to remain in contact with each other. So again, that idea that the fiends and the quasi-elementals are sort of still talking to each other. And that, again, what does that mean for politics, perhaps? And if for the Blood War, are the fiends like being able to go through steam and
I like the idea of it like one of those old school steam bars, so they're all just sitting there with their little towels on them, and they're all having like debates, and
I love that. Because again, because it's not the same as the hells, obviously, with the devils and stuff. But I like the idea, that the demons are there.
These demons are all having having a little relaxing, just breathing in the vapors, a bit of mint, like peppermint or like eucalyptus oil, sort of put around.
You have the demigorgon, the two-headed one, that's sort of chatting at each other as they're putting like water on the mist as it comes up again. That's so cool. I hadn't even considered that. That's amazing. There's also those hated vortices connecting the prime to the steam, resemble like geysers, cloud banks, and other naturally occurring masses of steam or mist. So I like that idea that suddenly, you're in a very hot sauna or a hot springs, and you are overcome by the vapors, and then suddenly you're like, oh, it's really cold. I've stayed out too long. Where am I? Like it's that change in temperature. Perhaps maybe something I would play on a bit more. That it's so hot, but then there's a change in that temperature, like the snow comes or something like that, and then you're on your way to I think the hottest place, so like the fire or magma, and then it goes and then you go to the steam instead.
No, I like that, and I think it also has a little nod to your old Stradi boy, because of if someone hopes to travel to another plane by exploring this, they might end up in some place called the Demi-Plane of Dread, and even Xanthos wouldn't like that. That just makes me think of the mists into Strahd.
Well, because the mists are such a big part of it. This idea of like that those are the barriers between things, and they can shut and open, and like getting lost in the mist is obviously a big horror trope as well. So we really like that. So we need to get to the plane of mist for whatever the plane of not plane of dread. We need to get to the plane of steam for whatever reason. And then you're like, this seems more like Bavaria. And oh no, we're in
Ah,
Ravenloft. Shit.
shit. We've done
Shit.
this one.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like once you've done it and you keep coming back, you're like, oh, it's like the sort of walk in, put your hat down. Oh no, walk out again. Just back through the mist. Wrong one.
Yeah, you have to go your other left, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So the hazards though, so these are interesting. So
Yeah.
it talks about like fire burns, water drowns, smoke chokes, but steam doesn't hurt anyone. The thick moisture in the atmosphere does slow breathing down a little as a slow spell. Water breathing spell removes this limitation. Simple. But I like simple. But what I like is that this means that steam, again, going back to that, for me, I always think of it like really hot, very quick, very angry, perhaps. Like you think of like a boiling kettle, like screaming on a hob or something like that. Here, it's like much slower and calmer. Like going back to that sauna idea that you're having. But as a result, everything is slower, and everything you have to take your time, and almost, it's a big sort of, rather than like rather than sort of reflective, it is more like, oh no, we are slowed down to the point that we're too slow, we can't react quickly, which I think is a really cool way of thinking about it. I just think that's just so different to what I was expecting from Steam. It's not you're not rushed up, but that makes me think that then an opposite would be like everything is rushed up in a different plane, and so therefore you have the effects of a haste spell. Having those effects of spells against each other would be quite interesting.
That could work in like Radiance, some of that, couldn't it, as well?
Yeah.
I think, or positive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
You get steam pockets. Most people think steam is hot, but it's wrong. But has been said, few areas of hot vapor hide amongst the mists. These tricky affect 2d6 points of damage. Not immune to heat. And it's just like an elemental pocket you'd find anywhere, which I'm assuming it's just implying it's an elemental pocket of heat, like fire, that's got in and just made a bit of an actual hot steam.
Zanzar does not have pockets, do you?
I love it. And moving about is like air, except that anyone who can swim through the mists, so a traveller doesn't have to fall if they don't want to.
So a bit like water, really, is what I was thinking.
It's a bit like water or air, depending on how you feel about it. So you could fall forever if you want to, or you could swim as you like.
But then they had these steam ships as well, another way of getting around. So again, I'm sure there was another plane that talked about being able to move through the air. But then this one, like obviously like air itself, what you can ride birds, etc. But the idea of having steam ships that employ steam methods to fill balloons and expel some of the gas to propel them at great speeds through the air. So again, if you love your steampunk, let's get it in here. Get all the cogs and stuff, and get all these steam methods with like big goggles on. It's like there she blows, all these steam methods all one after another, trying to pull each other on the various levers and stuff. It feels very. We talked about it before when we did Spelljammer. The gnomes making really wild like spaceships. That's what I imagine with these steam ships. They're just like completely like bits and pieces put together, and it's like, all right, we need to go up, everyone in the balloon, go go go, and all these methods are going in and like pushing up together, like some sort of Studio Ghibli like action is what I was thinking, like like just inflates and goes, like an anime type thing.
I think that's I think it's something that we talked about the other day, about if we were going to remake this whole planes thing, is to talk about it more in terms of traveling around, and there's lots of other ship things, and I think Howl's Moving Castle or that sort of like style of thing would be very cool. There was something that I was just trying to find what the Fabir are, and I couldn't find it, but someone has made a Denizens of the Inner Planes creature codex on the internet. It's not an official Planescape thing, but it's got 150 pages, and it might be worth, if anyone is interested, trying to find it. Also the monstrous compendium for Planescape, Appendix 3, was written also by Monte Cook, so it might be in there as well. Jesus, right? So if you want to get some stuff, you could get some stuff in there. So that's where they all are. So you need to buy another book which talks about the inner planes, and it does reference looking for where we are, the Dark Light, Quasielemental, Skyle, and Variso, and in the Steam, the Clinides, the Wavefire, the Spear and Javus. So we'll probably, should have bought the Monstrous Compendium Part 3.
But we didn't know. We didn't know.
No.
Again, it didn't say in the video, hey, here's some other useful
Yeah,
books that you would need
exactly.
to have, you know? Like, and that's what I do say, that's what D&D books, the adventures do now, going, hey, you might need these books. Or you can buy them on D&D Beyond, all that sort of thing. So it's always good to have, like, because if you don't have all the resources you need to run an adventure, then that's it's not great.
No, I think it's a bit cheeky.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cheeky, but there you go.
Let's move over then to the inhabitants of Steam. There are 6, no 5 inhabitants. We've got quasi-elementals, the Kaline Desi, is that what you pronounce them as? The Wayfires, the Mist Methods, and the Steam Methods. But there might be others, but who really needs more? I agree, Xanthos. This idea that misty creatures in general, again, I like the idea that this whole place is misty. Maybe you can see these creatures slightly, you know, like we've said it before, like the darkest of dark, like the black against black, that you can sort of make an outline or something. That's how I see the mist creatures here, because I just assume this place is very, very misty, and then you can just see an outline of something flits in and out, maybe just the shapes of something very far away or very up close, but you can never really spot what these creatures look like.
Where was that before? Was that in Smoke? Was it Smoke?
I think it was Smoke. Yeah, so I can imagine like Smoke and Steam, people get mixed up quite a bit because they are like, again,
similar,
but because Steam is no longer hot, it is this cold, misty wetness, and you're like, oh, you know, so that's the other thing as well. So maybe people will be like, oh, but they're different, and no, they're very similar in terms of physical characteristics.
Yeah, no, I think, the only difference is that you can not breathe in Smoke, which is it. But isn't the distances the same? I'm trying to figure. I was just trying to have a look because it had. Who cares? It's very similar, and this is the thing that seems to happen in the Quasielemental Planes, is that things start to overlap quite consistently. And like, how do you move about? It would be nice actually, even in this one, if it was different. Like they've already mentioned, just going back on that, the using the transport with the gas-filled balloons, is if that was you can't move when you're in Steam. Maybe you got stuck and it's hot and sweaty, you're slowed, there is no way to move. You can move, but you move at a trudge, and it's really difficult, and you sort of walk through it. That would be kind of interesting. And then the only way to really take advantage of movement here is you need to either use a different spell, which is like a steam walk or water walking method or something like that, or something else. I think it would be kind of interesting if they did that. Like lightning could have ride the lightning. That could be, the only way to travel in lightning is to actually tether yourself, think about where you want to go to, and then lightning transports you to where you want to go. And that's, otherwise you are, even if you think you're moving, you're never actually moving from where you are. That would be much more exciting. That was all. That was interesting.
I like that any mode of transport is inspired or flavored by the different planes.
It would be better sometimes.
I think so, rather than just going, it's just like air, or it's a bit like Earth, you know, but worse or better, you know. Like,
exactly.
I guess because also we discussed this before about because the way you get to these particular nitty-gritty granular planes is through the bigger planes, to be fair. There's not necessarily, I mean, there's every so often there's like a dedicated portal, etc., but it's like, it's so fleeting, don't bother. And you're like, my players are going to bother though.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know D&D players? Have you met them before? Then the major players is great in this.
Xanthos, yeah.
Xanthos is a Slard. What is Slard doing in the planes? No one knows. Wait, that has been said. No major players.
No major players. No autographs, etc. Some stuff in the animals and monsters bit, like I said, so we've got, there's the home for creatures called the Fabura.
That's what I was just trying to find. Which sound really interesting.
Yeah, like you said, the gigantic gas-filled balloon-like animals that inhale steam and exhale it again to propel themselves.
In my mind.
It is Kirby, 100%. The Yavus, which is like spiky octopedal or octopidal insectivores. Yes, I just imagine it's octopuses, but as insects, which is horrible.
Yeah.
And then Fegus, a mold or moss that grows virtually over everything in this damp, cool climate. So yeah, this idea that you have mold, which we've not really had in other planes. I don't say, like the vegetation of it's always been the animals and stuff, but we've not really looked into. And especially again for me, moss It's very much like, oh, this place is uncared for. So when you see like ruins and stuff and they're covered in this moss, like, people haven't been there for a long time and not cared for it, or it's not been cultivated in a way. Or the opposite is like it's like a botanical garden of some sort, and people are
Oh,
growing different
yeah.
kinds of this moss, which again you could again as a hook take it somewhere
Oh,
else.
I like that. I like that as a thing. And also just like maybe this you could thinking about Steam, you're making me think of like and the saying about like botanical gardens. Like
Oh
there's that
yeah,
huge one in Singapore, which is the big glass houses, and they're all kind of so big and steamy, or like the Eden Project in the UK.
yes.
You get natural steam forming inside those. So maybe this would be like another realm that they could have, would be like a big herbologist's like glass glass tower or glass palace that's all about collecting and creating, rare flowers and plant species to make herbal remedies and stuff like that. Could be kind of another, because it
Ooh.
always seems to be like a part of these planes, as it's about getting good, stuff, getting good
Mhm.
equipment, getting boons or benefits, building great swords. So why not have a herbology one, which is
Yeah.
here in the plane of mist or something like that?
Yeah, or even like we need certain types of like mist. Sorry, yeah. You get either certain types of vegetation or a product that is made from the animals here. So like you're thinking like sheep. Obviously, we
Yeah,
use their wool and stuff like that. So maybe something
yeah,
similar to that. So before we've had stuff like we need a certain type of material, like the vidium was one from the was it
yeah.
mineral, I think. It was always like, oh, we need this for our weapons and stuff. But yeah, what if it's just normal resources like for clothing or for a particular kind of hat? That's not necessarily armor related and stuff, but yeah, vegetation and like yeah, making potions and to
Yeah.
make people better. We can only get it from a particular place, and it's from this disgusting moss in a very clammy place in the realm of steam. So let's go. Yeah, I like that.
On those, on the thing going back to the Javus and the
Jabus.
Fabir, I think I
Yeah.
found a picture. A
Ooh.
Javus looks like basically, yeah, an octopus with a really big spiky head and
Ooh.
very wispy legs
Ooh.
and additional sort of nostrils.
Ooh. Horrible.
That makes sense. And it's
Are they,
got like
how
flies
how
around it.
big how big are they? Are they massive
Uh,
or are they small? Is it one of those things where it's like, would you rather face a horse-sized Javus or many Javuses-sized
yeah, well, they
horses?
seem like I don't know how big they look. Like they've got cricket-like things near them, and a cricket is a cricket size.
Tiny,
The
yeah.
Javus is like that big,
Ooh, no, thank you.
or
'Cause
like
I
that big
imagine I
maybe.
imagine to be super small, like a swarm,
No, it's
having these
quite.
horrible things. But if they're
Seems
massive,
to
no
be
thanks.
quite big.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
Did you say you were looking at the Fabir as well, or is that?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it, but it doesn't. I don't think it shows a picture. I've just found information on it, but I can't. Yeah, it doesn't. It just says
No.
it's actually a picture of the very cool, which we're going to come on to next.
Mm.
The Clindesi. Clindesi? Clindesi.
Yeah, again, wouldn't it be great if we had pronunciation guides and
Yeah.
everything? That's
Well, they
what.
call them Clindes,
Yes.
Clinders, and then they are the Clindesi. I don't
Hmm.
know. Um, and they look like steamy blue, kind of monstrous, like gargoyle-like creatures.
Ooh.
And they're very liquid, and they sort of float around. And these are solitary, misty creatures that hunt for beer and non-native travelers for food, coming without warming up the steam and the mist. So yeah, in this you would probably describe it as like you see a shimmer of blue that's slightly darker in the mist. Probably needs a good perception check, and then you
Ooh.
see islets. Sort of, you see what the humanoid, but a hulking humanoid
Oh
coming right at you,
no.
carnivorous, go, and they surprise you.
Oh no.
And yeah, they are sort of, what CR rating do they call them? They didn't have that in those days, but it's kind of like hit dice. Oh yeah, they got like a 17 AC,
Okay. Okay. Quite
4
high.
attacks per round,
Oh
and they do
no.
1d6 damage per attack.
Oof.
So they're
Pretty
quite
brutal. It could be
pretty
quite
lethal.
brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then the other ones that we find are the wave fires.
Mm.
Now looking at these up now I know there's a bloody book. Uh, Wavefire. Ooh. Okay, you know that beautiful, forget the artist's name from Japan with the wave that comes over,
Oh,
the
yeah,
wave,
the Great
classic with
Wave.
the boat, the Great Wave, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that, but it's got eyes at the top of the wave and it's more wispy and horrible.
Oh,
And it's
no.
like, yeah, and it's like the inner belly is all like blue and like crusty, and then it's got these
Oh.
floaty ghost-like tendrils that come off it. Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. That's so because that's so different to again what I was expecting. Because a lot of times I'm like, oh, it's just it's a polar bear but made out of mist. It's a
No.
giraffe but made out of mist. But actually now we've got some really detailed, interesting ones. And how big is that wave creature, the Wavefire one? Is it pretty big?
Yes, its size is average. No, size, tall, large, 12 foot.
Okay,
12
a
foot.
fridge.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, a fridge is coming.
I like it though. It goes, now here's a stretch. A body needs a wide open mind to follow along. A few scholars and philosophers think that long ago the inner planes had a different configuration and were arranged in different order, which produced different para-elemental planes other than those the folks are familiar with. For example, air and earth mixed to create a very different version of dust, one full of choking, swirling sandstorms rather than disintegration and decay, which we'll come on to, and fire and water, which made steam. Well, this alternate plane of steam, supposedly made up, have these super heated, infinitely deep ocean that boiled continuously, and that's where these wave fires came up, and they still exist, trying to claim back dry air to make it all wet, basically.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So lots of different encounters you can have for your players, and they're like, yeah, what's that in the mist? It's going straight towards us. Is it a fridge? Absolutely not a fridge. The other thing to mention as well, like I know we sort of danced around a little bit with it, but the steam and mist methods, they are very different apparently. Again, doesn't really give too much away in this particular book, again, because of the point of view as well. Certainly Zanzos is like, I don't know the difference, but they have a rivalry. They're sort of on and off, and they don't get on very well, which again I quite like. Maybe this is because of that switch from the changing of the plane. So it was really hot and now really cold, and now this a new kind of method is in town. And so I do quite like that maybe you're drawn into like an argument between steam versus mist, and that who can't see necessarily that sort of loggerheads because they don't see the common ground they have with each other, because they're so focusing on the difference between that you're really hot and fiery but you're cool and misty and mulchy. I don't know, damp. Mulchy, that's what I'm thinking, because of the Pegasus, the mold and stuff. So
yeah,
I think that could be good. Again, you just have to be careful when it's like that sort of politics, perhaps, because you don't want to be like one over the other, etc., and the punching down on certain groups. Perhaps that's the only thing it could lead to. I'm not saying it would do, but anything like that, when it's like two methods that have the same, that have very similar, but they're sort of infighting, you just got to be a little bit careful about that sort of stuff.
I think so. And I think I think it's not even necessary, to be honest. Really, I think you could just get like it could just you can just even just ignore it and just have like,
you're right.
Wait, who are you? Like if they've never they might never have left their plane. You're like, wait a minute. That sort of moment of like,
that's so much better that you have infighting, but it's about petty things rather than like, we don't like you because of who you are. I like that. Exactly. It's so much better. I absolutely get rid of the
just do it. Just usual humanoid infighting between people, as in like you stole my I was going to eat that Fegus.
Yes,
no,
yes,
that's my Fegus.
They're fighting over Feguses, absolutely.
Exactly. And then Sansos goes, I'll have Fegus, but I don't like it, but I want it.
Yes, I'll take it from you.
But it's exactly. So I think there's kind of interesting little sides on Zanzos as well when we talk about methods, which I do enjoy, because it says you said the different things, but I love how it goes Zanzos every time he's talking about Methos. It goes, Zanzos is hungry again, and then methods are best uncooked, and stuff like little asides every 5 seconds.
It's great. It's like, thank you, Zanzos, for your contribution to this conversation. It's great. But again, what a great, like, again, it's so
Yeah.
simple. It's not overdone, that sort of character where it's just like
Yeah.
the personality is in there, similar to the Radiance one as well. We had those two people, the two sort of quasi-elemental of Radiance, like just talking. I quite liked it because that was sort of baked in it, and I kind of wish now, because I flip flop, as you know, on the sort of point of view stuff quite a bit. Sometimes I'm like, oh, but it's more. But I think here, 'cause it's so well written, and still got that structure. I think the thing I had with the Radiance plane is that we kind of lost the structure because it had two voices talking about stuff rather than like, rather than having that structure of like, here's the things it's split into. So there's a little bit more of a duologue, a conversation perhaps. But yeah, no, I really like it here, and I think it's really well written as a result, and it instantly gives me something to play as someone to, if they do come to the realm of Steam, the quasi-elemental realm of Steam, instantly I'm like, they are absolutely going to meet Zanzost. So
Yes. 100%. Yeah. No, I think he's gonna. I think even if you're in limbo and bringing him up, he's turning up. He's turning up
let's
wherever.
just put Zanzos and everything.
Zanzos is in Sigil. Zanzos
This
gets
is
around.
Zanzos Travel Book Club now. We've decided.
Next week we just have Zanzos in the middle of us. And a little Slard picture. A Slard plushie. That's basically it.
Oh no! Could you imagine? It does. To be fair, it doesn't say in this book. Presumably, it does say in the Faces of Evil what kind of Slard Zanzos is, because there's different kinds. There's like red, blue, green, grey.
I'm gonna try and get a picture of Zanzos.
Death Slards. That's a. I have a suspicion that it's going to be the sort of lowest in the ranking. So I think maybe red is the lowest. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Here we go. Zanzos. Hello, mortals. It's time for you to learn about the different kinds of Tanari to be afraid of. But do not worry, Zanzos has personally killed many of these fiends whilst researching this book. So just take Zanzos or another Slard with you when you fight Tanari, and you will be fine.
Love them.
So he talks about Tanari in that. So I'm looking forward to reading that. Does it show you a picture of Zanzos? I love it. It has a picture of Zanzos, and the caption is Zanzos conducts research on Vrox, and it's Zanzos killing Vrox.
Incredible.
And he looks red.
Red. There you go.
Yeah.
But I like the idea.
He's actually quite big and terrifying.
Oh, even better. Yeah, a hulking thing. It reminds me a lot of like Volo's guide to the things. Like, I'm Volo. I will tell you everything. Yeah. It's just Zanzos. Like, hello, ooze. Yeah. I think 100% of it. Hello, mortals. Greetings, mortals. Hello. Just like constantly, no qualms about, no inhibitions.
He is the Volo of the planes.
Of the planes. Yes. Yeah. Of the inner planes. Moving away from our Zanzos talk, we'll have to get back to. I know. Everyone loves Zanzos.
Everyone loves Zanzos.
Let's go back to the site. So some of the places that we can see in the quasi-elemental plane of Steam.
So we've got Adrift, which is our classic, place where created by people from other planes. Population is half non. Yeah, it is. It's a good one. It was a good video game as well, wasn't it? Called Adrift. I remember. And everyone gets on really well, and everyone keeps the peace, which is quite nice.
And the
statues. Yeah, exactly. This is the thing that's really cool, and the piece of art on the next page, which is these ancient. Very much reminds me of the statues, City of Splendor statues that are in Waterdeep, the Guardian statues.
The walking statues,
Walking statues. But these used to stand 1,000 feet tall, but they float pieces apart from in a vague semblance of original arrangement. And they're covered all in feathers. Cesar has one last thing to say about Adrift. For some reason, Slardy are not too welcome there. Zanzos didn't eat that many methods.
But again, this idea, like you said, like it's like a city that's shaped like a great ring with a diameter of a mile that spins endlessly. So almost like it has its own solar system, but with having these broken up statues, huge statues, which easily you can platform on. I'm like, this is difficult terrain. You're doing a chase scene, you're going out onto those statues, and all the Fegus, it's a bit slippery, and if you fall, you're just going to be floating forever in the realm of Steam. And again, it gives you so much. That's a cool battle map.
It is. If you need a battle map, there is one in the Dragon Heist Forgotten Tales battle map. Has a battle map for a floating statue for the walking statue, so you could just use that.
Absolutely.
There's one off the top.
Because you could either be like very broken up parts or just like one big statue that's just sort of shifting and moving. That's the thing, because it like, again, I assume that these statues are very, very heavy, but like any sort of force put on them, they could easily change their rotation depending on how big that force is.
If you had the opportunity to, in a VTT, or like there was a D&D VTT where it had the spinning
Well, that's what I was
You know
thinking. Yeah, it
what?
spins as you're trying to run after them, and it spins, and you have to duck and like
I
weave.
really want a Planescape BG3. Baldur's Gate, Planescape.
Hey, Larian Studios, you heard it first. There's a request gone in.
I don't think they're going to do it, but whoever they give it to, just put it in the planes, in Sigil. It's the coolest damn place. Go to some planes, and then you can make it like Destiny, where you just infinitely add to it. So it's like you buy DLC, you start off in Sigil, and then you maybe get just one plane and then DLC download. I'll buy them all.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you got the Straits of Varagon. What about those then?
Yeah, so this is like a valley of clear air, and its path stretches for miles and miles and has become an important area to control, at least for those non-natives whose visibility is limited by steam. So it's just like almost like a clear corridor, essentially, a place where the steamships can go through. So it'd probably be a cool tourist area. So again, if you're like, come see the straight corridor of clear air in the realm of steam, that's that sort of thing on there. But it's also commonly used as like a setting for maybe enemies want to ambush others, pirates, brigands to waylay travelers. So again, it's very typical. Like, oh, here is a valley. There's an easy ambush right at the bottom, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know what the Varagon is.
I like it as like a race. I like the idea that it's for where you can fly, sail steamships very fast, and I like the idea that it's like that's not pod racing. It's just like.
Too fast, too steamship. Yeah,
too fast, too steamship.
But that's the thing. This is the first time it's ever really talked about like having like travel like that. So absolutely, why can't we have steamship racing? Pod racing as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be really great. And then you could have like an ambush there when it's happening.
Yeah.
But I think that's
I think
really
because this whole straight bit of it, it stretches for miles. So yeah, absolutely, you could make it into a. Yeah. I hadn't even thought of that. Oh, yeah. So now we've got like steamships. We've got this adrift place with the floating statues of a chase, and now we have a big racing arena or circuit with the steamships.
Yeah. So when you're in there, maybe
great.
that's like maybe the straits are nearby and adrift like is nearby, and everyone goes for the monthly
like Silverstone like racing.
Steam. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I think that'd be really cool. And you can deck out your steamship. You can have make up like whole little like extra things for like how much money you can buy. You want to get 2 of those steam engines on the on one of those.
This airship holds so many steam methods.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then if you were doing like a proper like Formula One thing, that you're like, oh, we have to go down, and like you set the ship down, and then you have all these steam efforts like changing all the wheels.
Doing that, and it's like, would you like to? And you can like upgrade your machine with additional engines, or like streamline it. Go to the different plane. Maybe that's why you're traveling the planes. It's like we're gonna get a blade so sharp from the plane of radiance, so that it cuts the aerodynamic foil so perfectly. And that's all the whole thing is about, building the ultimate grease lightning.
My God. That's incredible.
We're going to get an accumulator to like accumulate more power.
Get that lightning, and then as soon as you're in the lightning.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you imagine? Yeah, that's the thing.
This is hybrid.
There's a game called Slug Blaster, which is basically like hoverboarding, but you go through different portals and different things. So like that's what I can imagine is like you use the straits and then you portal to a random different plane.
When you hit 88 miles an hour, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, in your steamship. I love this.
Frick, yes, I love this.
This is so much better than the last episode where we were just like, this is negative. And
to be honest, like it's like the Concorde and Express made Planescape even better somehow. I think like having transportation that's cool, yes, and you travel through the I love it. Maybe that's like if you go there, that could be the first place you go, and it's like that's the traveling system. Someone's built this plane shifting, hit 88 miles an hour in a steamship down the Straits of Varagon.
Yeah.
That's a sentence you want to say, isn't it?
I do, yeah. Just going back, Concorde Express is such a cool, like the Modron sort of travels, etc., like railway. That's the thing. I think, obviously we can use portals and stuff, but it does feel like now that, we can discover the multiverse planes, why isn't there like a transportation system that it covers most of them, but some of them are broken? Yeah, it makes sense. Like maybe it's just because we're both from the UK and we use like public transport all the time, rather than just relying on ourselves or a car. So lots of thoughts there.
It's good.
And I was going to say the final place is another tower, the Tower of Ice. It stands near the border of the positive energy plane, but at the same time near a region called hoarfrost. It is entirely made out of ice, so we had that blue light from before. We now have ice here. Even Xanthos knew that from its name. Those who can gain entry, there's a trick, but no one will tell Xanthos what it is. Find the creation of certain substances like potions and poisons becomes much easier in the arcane laboratories within. So kind of like what you were saying before about that sort of Thegus sort of mold and stuff. Maybe this is where you make it and boil it per se. But no way in and no way out. So yeah.
But again, do the big tower thing with the ethereal plane. You've got it. You're fine.
Yeah, all done.
And why do you want to come here? Why do you want to come here?
Why do you want to come here? I think
work on the cloud farms.
Yeah. Why aren't we talking about the cloud farms? Like, this seems like a cool because you were talking about this idea of like cultivation and vegetation, but make it cloud, make it steam, make it whatever. It's just, it sounds...
But do it inside a big glass thing, I think would be cool, and link it to the Tower of Ice. And I think it's kind of a great idea.
Yeah, so these places literally seed the clouds of steam with various plants that hover in the mists and find purchase there. The plants take root and grow in the clouds until flying steamships called harvesters come along and collect the crops and gather them into bins. This work can be dangerous with all the different creatures that are flying around, and most of the farmhands and harvesters crews are secretly well-armed warriors and mages. So, again, we didn't have much in terms of farming stuff. Now I appreciate I've moved to a place that is full of farming stuff, and they're very particular about
You're
it.
Basically in Arborea.
I'm basically in Arborea. It's kind of beautiful outside. But it is that sort of thing where you're like, why we didn't really before. It was all like, adventures, we're gonna make cool weapons or this idea. Why don't we have more stuff on farming, like in the inner planes? Like it totally makes sense. It had. Earth was more like, getting minerals and stuff like that, which I guess, but actually like foodstuffs or, I don't know, clouds are different perhaps, but I don't know, but because you get, because if you like buy this cloud, you need, there's been a drought in your region. If you get these clouds for a certain number of gold coins, we can make sure it rains for at least 2 days, and then being able to make places that are livable as a result of us being able to change the weather as a result. I just think that's really, really interesting. And additionally, since these crops are so valuable, because these rare plants obviously don't grow anywhere else, raiders and bandits plague the workers constantly. So again, that idea that you've appeared and suddenly you see two steamships like fighting each other, doing these big pirate battles. But ultimately, they're all like, we're just farmers, but we're very well armed and very beefy, and you see these wizards and mages like blasting off. So it's so interesting and different. I like it. It's just so different.
I think that's really cool. I like the idea of that's what you turn up to. That makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah,
that's cool. And then and that's what I was trying to think. It's hydroponics. That's the word. Hydroponics. When you grow things in water. It's been bugging me. I was trying to think what it is. Spell keys. I like Xanthos. Xanthos thinks it's funny that sometimes wizard spells don't work. For some reason, however, the wizards usually don't laugh.
Thanks, Xanthos.
The normal spells, the spell keys are to make gurgling sounds made in the throat of the caster, adding verbal components to each spell, even if it didn't have that anyway. And these complex sounds add a cast time of 1 per spell level to each spell. Casting times more than 10 become 1 full round. So I think that's old school.
I assumed stuff. So, yeah.
But I'd just say it's a bonus action or something like that. Maybe you have to use a bonus action. Yeah.
I think, and again, because I'm one of those DMs, it's like, I want to hear what sound you add.
Yeah. You've got to get your water.
And if it impresses me, then 100% I will give you advantage or inspiration.
You've got to say the spell whilst gurgling.
Yes, get some water. Yeah, absolutely. But also, it reminded me of, there's a podcast that I listen to called Hell or High Rollers, which is done by Mischief Theatre. And their thing is that one of their players, Ghoul, who is like a little campestry mushroom, they do healing word, and so they'll be like, healing word, and the healing word today is, and then they'll just make up a word, or they'll be like crumpets or something like that. And so that's what I like, is like you have to think of it like a word right then and there to say as you're doing the spell, and just do a random generator, and it'd be like ball pit, like I don't know, just any sort of word, and then having the gurgling sound as well. There's actually an improv game which you play with people where you say the first part of, you say a noise, and then your scene partner has to finish it as a word. So you could be like, and it'd be like, Armageddon, like that sort of like that So it's just pairing people together,
I
and
like
obviously
it, yeah.
it's hilarious on Zoom because you're like, I didn't hear a word they said, and
Yeah,
just making it up
exactly.
like that. But I like that. So maybe you work together, but like, give me a noise, and they'll be like, go, and you're like, go,
Goliath?
me, yeah, Goliath, yeah, absolutely, yeah, exactly.
That's a great game.
It's a fun
Oh.
game. It's a nice little warm up game. It's just trying to, it's obviously being silly because obviously you could come up with rubbish words like, So yeah, it's good fun. So that's what I thought when I saw that.
Awesome. Well, there we are.
We did it.
My sinuses are clear, ironically, because they're not in real life.
Oh no, bless you.
And I feel it's just constant. And then and I feel I'm bathed in light and steam today.
Yeah. So
what lovely places are we going to go to next?
Yeah, so we kind of finished off the positive energy inspired planes.
Oh.
So that means we're going to go to the other side.
To the flip side.
To the flip side of the sphere. And we're going to go to these quasi-elemental planes which are tinged with the sort of negative energy. So next up on our journey, we have quasi-elemental plane of ash and dust. Again, one of those things I'm like, there is a difference. It's also feels
one's
just but we're all going to be coughing no matter what, and we're not going to be able to see.
Ash makes me think of Dark Souls 3, and dust is like just the end
Tomb Raider
of the
is what I'm
world.
thinking, just anything dusty or I don't know
exactly. Yeah,
but there you go. So,
yeah, I like that.
So yeah, but that will be our.
Also, I think I know where there's a vortices to the elemental plane of dust in my house.
Oh no! Is it under the
loft?
Oh, is your loft? I was gonna say, is it under the bed? That's where all my
also the top of like cupboards is an element. I'm sure that's a vortices.
You know what? I love that idea that's where it can be. It's like, oh, you've not looked in this cupboard.
Yeah, exactly. If you leave anywhere to get too dusty, you transport into the elemental plane of dust. Vacuum cleaners.
But that episode will be our penultimate episode of this particular series before we go into the final one of salt and vacuum, and then obviously astral and ethereal at some point. Yeah,
exactly.
But there you go. So we're nearly at the end of another travel book club. It feels.
No, what? Well, I mean, they go so fast. I mean, to be honest, when the last one was
I
like
moved
60,
house between us starting this and ending this.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the first one was like 16 to 18 episodes, and then over a year and a bit, because we did it over a year. So like, it's quite a different. That was quite a different kettle of fish. This, which has actually been like a few months in reality. Yeah,
a bit shorter. Yeah, absolutely.
I do also like that the person that you hear about in the elemental plane of dust is written by A. Sandman.
Incredible.
Amazing.
But thank you so much for listening. Again, if you around the screen just now, there'll be other links to where you can listen to previous episodes of the Travel Book Club, our other sibling podcast, the actual DM's Book Club, where you can check all the fun stuff out there. And you can also find Hamilton fueled by chaos all over the internet. That's you, with lots of Warhammer stuff. I'm doing What Am I Rolling, which again you can find out all over the internet.
Everything else.
Doing everything else from my little plane of steam. I guess right now, like, the greyness of it all. But yeah, well, all right. I think that's all we have to say.
There's nothing more to say, is there?
No.
But see you
on the flip side
of the planes.